Welcome to True Crime Case Files, the podcast where we delve into chilling stories of love, betrayal, and murder. Today, we travel to the quiet town of La Mesa, Texas, where a seemingly idyllic community was shaken to its core in early May of 2022. What began as whispers of an affair soon turned into a harrowing tale of deception and desperation, culminating in the brutal murder of a pregnant secretary. Marlene Hayes was a 31-year-old secretary at the La Mesa Sheriff's Office, known for her quick wit, organizational skills, and warm personality. Born and raised in La Mesa, Texas, Marlene graduated from La Mesa High School in 2009 and later earned a certificate in office administration from Midland College. She married her high school sweetheart, Travis Hayes, in 2017, and the two seemed like the perfect small-town couple. Marlene was active in her church and loved baking, often bringing homemade treats to the office. In early 2021, Marlene began working at the sheriff's office, where she met Sheriff Willie Carlin, a charismatic and respected leader in the community. Willie, 45, was known for his charm and ability to connect with people, qualities that had earned him multiple re-elections. Initially, their relationship was professional, with Willie mentoring Marlene in her new role. However, as they worked closely together, their conversations grew more personal. Marlene confided in Willie about her struggles in her marriage, how Travis had become distant and seemed uninterested in starting a family. Willie in turn shared his frustrations about his own strained relationships as a womanizer. By mid-2021, their connection deepened. After a late-night work session in the office, their relationship turned physical. Both felt a mix of excitement and guilt, but they rationalized the affair as an escape from their personal problems. They worked hard to keep their sexual relationship a secret, meeting for sex in out-of-town motels and using burner phones to communicate. Marlene even adjusted her work hours to avoid suspicion. In February 2022, Marlene discovered she was pregnant. The news left her both elated and terrified. She longed to be a mother, but she had no way of knowing if the father was Travis or Willie. The uncertainty weighed heavily on her. She initially tried to hide her pregnancy, wearing loose clothing and avoiding conversations about her future. When she finally told Willie, he reacted with panic, urging her to keep the baby's paternity a secret. In the weeks leading up to her death, Marlene's mood became erratic. Close friends noticed she alternated between bursts of excitement about the baby and moments of anxiety. She began dropping hints to Travis about wanting a fresh start, though she stopped short of revealing her affair. By early May, she had started researching DNA testing options online, including popular kits like 23andMe. As she grappled with her emotions, Marlene found herself caught in a web of secrets and fear, unsure of what the future held for her and her baby. On the morning of May 7, 2022, a Saturday, La Mesa was waking up to a clear Texas sky. Around 8:30 a.m., Deputy Kevin Morales, a 26-year-old officer with the Sheriff's Department, arrived at the office to prepare for his weekend shift. Morales had stopped by Stripes for a coffee and breakfast taco, a routine he rarely skipped. When he unlocked the building's front door, he noticed something odd. Marlene Hayes' car was still parked in its usual spot. Morales entered the office, calling out Marlene's name, but there was no response. As he walked toward her desk, he spotted her purse and phone lying untouched. Feeling uneasy, he opened the door to Sheriff Carlin's private office. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. Marlene's body was slumped on the floor behind the sheriff's desk. Blood pooled around her head, and a gunshot wound was visible near her temple. The scene was eerily silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Morales froze for a moment, then backed out of the room and called 911, his voice shaking as he described the situation. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Morales. I need immediate backup at the sheriff's office. It's Marlene. She's been shocked," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Paramedics arrived quickly, followed by more deputies. When first responders checked Marlene's vitals, they discovered something remarkable. Despite her fatal injury, her baby had survived. They performed an emergency cesarean section on site, delivering a healthy baby boy. The infant was rushed to the hospital and placed in neonatal care, where doctors marveled at his survival. Deputies cordoned off the area, locking down the office and its surroundings. News of the tragedy spread quickly through La Mesa, a town of fewer than 10,000 residents where everyone seemed to know each other. By lunchtime, local outlets like the La Mesa Press Reporter were running headlines, and social media buzzed with rumors. The discovery shocked the community, leaving friends and family in disbelief. Marlene, who had been eagerly preparing for motherhood, was gone, and questions about her untimely death hung heavy over La Mesa that day. The scene inside Sheriff Willie Carlin's office on the morning of May 7, 2022 was one of both tragedy and unexpected hope. Marlene Hayes, 31, lay lifeless on the floor, a fatal gunshot wound to her temple. Despite the horror, first responders quickly realized her 9 months pregnant condition presented a chance to save her baby. Paramedics worked swiftly, performing an emergency cesarean section right there on the office floor. Against all odds, a healthy baby boy was delivered. His first cries filled the room, a small miracle amid the chaos. The infant was rushed to La Mesa Medical Center for care. The news of the miraculous delivery spread quickly, earning headlines in local outlets like the La Mesa Press Reporter and even a brief mention on Good Morning America. Meanwhile, police sealed off the office, treating the area as a potential homicide scene. Lead investigator Surgeon Michelle Ortega, 38, known for her meticulous nature, arrived within an hour to oversee the investigation. The small office was immediately combed for evidence. Blood spatter analysis suggested the shot was fired at close range, likely from a handgun. The sheriff's desk was in disarray, with papers scattered and a broken coffee mug on the floor. Ortega noted the lack of signs of forced entry, raising the possibility that Marlene's killer was someone she knew. As detectives worked, they retrieved Marlene's phone from her desk. An analysis of her recent messages revealed a shocking revelation. She had been having an affair with Sheriff Carlin. The sexually explicit texts detailed secret late-night meetings, throwing arguments about her pregnancy, and Carlin's repeated pleas for her to keep quiet about the affair. The discovery stunned the officers at the scene, many of whom had worked under Carlin for years. He had a reputation as a charismatic and competent leader, the kind of man people trusted to uphold the law. Yet these messages painted a picture of a man under immense pressure, desperate to protect his career and personal life. Sergeant Ortega instructed her team to dig deeper into Carlin's recent whereabouts and interactions with Marlene. They also flagged her husband, Travis Hayes, as a person of interest, noting his strained relationship with Marlene in recent months. The discovery of Marlene's affair not only complicated the investigation, but also began to fracture the small-town trust that had surrounded Sheriff Carlin. As forensic evidence and witness statements continued to be collected, the team faced a growing web of secrets and betrayal. Travis Hayes and Marlene were often called the perfect couple in La Mesa, Texas. High school sweethearts, they had been married for 5 years and seemed to have it all: a cozy home on Walnut Street, a close-knit group of friends, and shared Friday night dinners at Sonic Drive-In. Travis, 32, was a dedicated mechanic at Morrow's Auto Repair, known for his steady hands and quiet demeanor. Marlene balanced his reserved nature with her sharp wit and warm personality, making them a beloved pair in the small town. But beneath the surface, cracks had been forming in their relationship. Over the past year, friends noticed that Travis had grown distant, often staying late at work or skipping social gatherings altogether. While Marlene was open about wanting children, Travis seemed hesitant, brushing off conversations about starting a family. When Marlene announced her pregnancy, Travis' reaction was lukewarm at best. Instead of joy, he seemed tense, fueling speculation among close friends. After Marlene's murder, the police brought Travis in for questioning. Initially cooperative, he appeared devastated by the news of his wife's death. "I'd loved her," he told officers, his voice shaking. However, his demeanor shifted when detectives revealed evidence of Marlene's affair with Sheriff Carlin. Text messages and meeting logs from Marlene's phone showed she and Carlin had been seeing each other for months, often meeting late at night. Travis was stunned. "I had no idea," he said, his hands gripping the edge of the interrogation table. His face flushed with anger and hurt. He struggled to process the revelation. The betrayal cut deep, and his initial shock turned into resentment. Still, he vehemently denied any involvement in her murder. "I could never hurt her, no matter what she did," he insisted. Investigators pressed him on his whereabouts the night of May 6. Travis explained he'd been at home watching reruns of The Big Bang Theory on CBS, falling asleep on the couch before midnight. He offered to let police search his property, including his tools. A search of the shed revealed several items of interest, including a crowbar and a pair of gloves with traces of what appeared to be blood. Forensics later determined the blood wasn't Marlene's, but the discovery deepened police suspicions, while Travis's heartbreak seemed genuine. His connection to Marlene's strained marriage and the presence of suspicious items placed him squarely under scrutiny. Sheriff Willie Carlin, 45, was a respected figure in La Mesa, Texas, but his personal life was the subject of constant whispers. Known for his charisma and knack for resolving disputes, Willie was the type of leader who could charm anyone. Yet behind closed doors his reputation was much darker. Rumors swirled around town, but Willie had a pattern of pursuing married women, using his position of authority to lure them into affairs. Some stories even suggested he had paid at least 2 women to terminate pregnancies to keep his escapade secret. Marlene Hayes, it turned out, was just one of many women Sheriff Carlin had been involved with. When police brought Willie in for questioning, he initially downplayed their relationship, referring to it as a nothing fling. "Marlene and I was a nothing thing," he said with a shrug, trying to maintain his composure. "It was just quickies every now and then, she knew that." Willie explained that their affair began innocently enough, with late-night make-out sessions at the sheriff's office. Over time, those conversations had turned into secret rendezvous for sex at motels just outside of town, including the Budget Inn off Highway 87. He insisted that their relationship was consensual and purely physical, claiming Marlene Newtley had no intention of changing his life. However, detectives weren't convinced by Willie's casual attitude. They had already uncovered text messages between him and Marlene, showing she had pleaded with him to take responsibility for her pregnancy. In the days before her death, Marlene had sent him a final message: "We need to talk this bleep. I can't do this bleeping alone any bleeping longer." The turning point in the interrogation came when police confronted Willie with forensic evidence. A paternity test confirmed that Marlene's unborn child was his. As the news sank in, Willie's confident demeanor faltered. His face turned pale, and he leaned back in his chair, struggling to find the right words. "That can't be," he muttered, shaking his head. When pressed further, he admitted that Marlene had told him she wasn't sure if the baby was his or her husband's. "I didn't think the bleep was mine," he said defensively, his voice rising. Detectives continued to press him, questioning his motives and reminding him of the potential fallout. Willie had everything to lose: his career, his family, and his standing in the community. While he continued to deny any involvement in Marlene's murder, his flustered reactions and evasive answers only deepened investigators' suspicions. As the questioning dragged on, Willie's frustration grew. "I've done a lot of stupid bleep," he admitted, his tone bitter. "But I'm not a killer." Still, his history of infidelity and the confirmed paternity test placed him at the center of the investigation, and police weren't ready to rule him out. As investigators probed deeper into the lives of Marlene Hayes and Sheriff Willie Carlin, they stumbled upon a shocking twist: a third person linked to the case, someone who had secretly been in love with Willie for years. This individual's unrequited feelings and growing resentment toward Willie and Marlene would change the entire trajectory of the investigation. The breakthrough came when detectives combed through Willie's emails and social media accounts. Among the routine correspondence, they uncovered messages from a local woman, Brenda Foster, a 38-year-old dispatcher at the sheriff's office. Brenda's emails to Willie, which started innocuously enough, gradually revealed a pattern of deep affection, frustration, and eventually bitterness. One email from March 2022 stood out. Brenda had written, "I've always been there for you, Willie. I don't understand how you could do this to me, to us." Another message, sent just weeks before Marlene's death, read, "You'll regret hurting me, just like you'll regret choosing her." Police interviewed co-workers and friends of Brenda, who painted a picture of a woman deeply infatuated with Willie. She had worked closely with him for over a decade and was known to be fiercely loyal. According to one colleague, Brenda often spoke about her admiration for the sheriff, going so far as to hint she believed they had a future together. Brenda's jealousy reportedly reached new heights when she discovered Willie's affair with Marlene. Investigators pieced together that she likely found out through confidential department records, perhaps overhearing details about the affair or seeing messages on Willie's phone. Witnesses described Brenda becoming withdrawn and irritable during this time, snapping at coworkers and avoiding social events. The final piece of the puzzle came when detectives analyzed security footage from the Hayes family's neighborhood. A vehicle matching Brenda's car was spotted driving near the Hayes home on the night of Marlene's death. A search warrant for Brenda's car revealed strands of hair and fibers matching items found at the crime scene. This discovery reframed the entire investigation. Detectives now believe Brenda's long-simmering resentment toward Willie, compounded by her discovery of his affair, may have motivated her to target Marlene. The evidence suggested Brenda viewed Marlene as a rival and blamed her for the wedge she imagined between herself and Willie. The twist opened up a new line of inquiry, forcing investigators to rethink their initial assumptions. Forensics teams began working overtime to connect Brenda to the crime definitively, as police prepared for what could be a dramatic turn in the case. As police dug deeper into Brenda Foster's past, they uncovered another shocking layer to her connection with Sheriff Willie Carlin. She was not just a secret admirer but one of the many married women Willie had seduced. Their affair began 5 years earlier, during late-night shifts at the sheriff's office. At the time, Brenda was married to Tom Foster, a truck driver, and they shared 2 young children. According to court records, Brenda's affair with Willie led to the unraveling of her marriage. When Tom discovered her infidelity, he filed for divorce in 2019. Brenda's behavior during the custody battle raised concerns. She struggled with bouts of anger, often lashing out in emails and text messages to her ex-husband. Ultimately, the court granted Tom full custody of their children, citing Brenda's unstable behavior. Friends and colleagues noticed a shift in Brenda after the divorce. She became more withdrawn and began fixating on Willie, who by then had moved on to other relationships. Despite her public attempts to seem indifferent, private emails and diary entries revealed she was still obsessed with him. Losing her family only deepened her emotional dependence on Willie, even as their relationship fizzled out. When police searched Brenda's home and electronics, they discovered disturbing evidence that connected her to Marlene Hayes. Text messages and social media posts showed that Brenda had made several veiled threats directed at Marlene after learning about her affair with Willie. In one particularly alarming post on a private Facebook group, Brenda wrote, "Some people don't deserve their happy endings. Some people don't deserve to bring children into this world." Witnesses also came forward to report Brenda's escalating hostility. A co-worker recalled hearing Brenda mutter, "That woman doesn't know what's coming to her," when Marlene's pregnancy became public knowledge. Another disturbing discovery was a voice memo Brenda had saved on her phone, in which she ranted about how Willie always ruins lives but never pays the price. Police theorized that Brenda's threats stemmed from a toxic mix of jealousy and rage. She saw Marlene as not only another woman who had taken Willie's attention, but also as someone about to give birth to the child she could never have with him. The evidence pointed to a chilling motive. Brenda's violent threats suggested she had been harboring dark intentions toward Marlene and her unborn baby. For investigators, these revelations solidified Brenda's role as a prime suspect in the unfolding tragedy. As the investigation deepened, police uncovered shocking evidence pointing directly to Sheriff Willie Carlin as Marlene Hayes' killer. The motive? Desperation. Willie was facing re-election in just a few months, and news of his affair with Marlene, and the possibility that her unborn child was his, threatened not only his career but his carefully crafted reputation. Known for his charm and good old boy persona, Willie had managed to sidestep rumors of past indiscretions, but this scandal could not be contained. The breaking point came on a quiet night in May of 2022. According to witnesses and office security footage, Willie and Marlene had a heated argument in his office. Marlene, visibly emotional, demanded that Willie acknowledge their affair and hinted that she was prepared to come clean if he didn't step up. Investigators later theorized that this ultimatum sent Willie into a panic, faced with the possibility of losing everything: his position, his reputation, and his freedom. Willie's decision took a deadly turn. In a fit of rage and fear, Willie grabbed his service weapon and shot Marlene at close range. The fatal encounter left him staring at an unplanned murder, and he immediately set about covering his tracks. To divert suspicion, Willie concocted a plan to frame Marlene's husband, Travis. Under the cover of night, he planted incriminating evidence in Travis' torch, including a pair of gloves stained with Marlene's blood and a wrench he claimed was the murder weapon. At first, his plan seemed foolproof. With his position as sheriff, Willie controlled key aspects of the investigation, ensuring that the planted evidence would come to light. But cracks began to appear in his story. Forensic experts determined that Marlene's wounds were caused by a gun, not a wrench. Surveillance footage showed Willie acting suspiciously near the tools on the night of the murder. His colleagues also noted his erratic behavior during the investigation, including his obsessive interest in pinning the crime on Travis. The final piece of evidence came from ballistics testing, which matched the bullet found in Marlene's body to Willie's service weapon. With this undeniable proof, police arrested Willie at his home. Neighbors reported seeing him led away in handcuffs, visibly pale and trembling. For Willie, the arrest marked the end of his double life. Once a pillar of the La Mesa community, he now faced charges of first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The reality of his downfall, paired with the public humiliation, left him a broken man. By March of 2023, the trial of Sheriff Willie Carlin became the most talked-about event in La Mesa, Texas. Once hailed as a beloved leader and protector of the community, Willie now faced charges of first-degree murder for killing Marlene Hayes, a pregnant woman whose unborn child was likely his. The courtroom was packed with reporters, townsfolk, and those curious about how the mighty had fallen. Willie's defense team, led by high-profile attorney Charles "Chuck" Beasley, leaned heavily on the sheriff's once spotless reputation. They painted him as a dedicated public servant and family man who had been unfairly targeted. Beasley argued that the accusations didn't align with Willie's character, stating, "A man so respected, so cherished by his community, would never commit such a heinous act." Beasley also attempted to raise doubts about the forensic evidence, claiming it was circumstantial and misinterpreted. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Carmen Ortiz, presented a different narrative. They outlined Willie's years of manipulation, his pattern of using his position to hide his indiscretions, and the overwhelming evidence tying him to the murder. Ortiz pointed to the ballistics match, surveillance footage, and planted evidence in Travis Hayes' tool as proof of Willie's guilt. In her closing statement, Ortiz declared, "This is not a case of a beloved public servant wrongfully accused. This is a case of a man who thought he was untouchable, using his power to destroy lives and cover his crimes." Willie took the stand in his defense, maintaining his innocence. He insisted he had nothing to do with Marlene's murder and claimed he was being framed by unknown enemies. At times he became emotional, appealing directly to the jury and the people of La Mesa. But under cross-examination, his confidence faltered as Ortiz highlighted inconsistencies in his testimony. After deliberating for 3 days, the jury returned with a guilty verdict on all counts. On March 29, 2023, Willie was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the judge read the sentence, Willie stared blankly ahead, the weight of the decision finally sinking in. Outside the courthouse, the community was divided. Some mourned the loss of the sheriff they once admired, while others felt justice had been served for Marlene and her unborn child. The trial ended a dark chapter in La Mesa's history, but the scars it left behind would remain for years. The guilty verdict against Sheriff Willie Carlin sent shockwaves through La Mesa. Once a pillar of the community, Willie began serving a life sentence without parole at the maximum security Allen B. Polunsky unit in Texas. Despite his incarceration, his story didn't end with the sentencing. Surprisingly, Brenda Foster emerged as a central figure in the aftermath. Following a bitter custody battle with Travis Hayes, she won custody of Marlene's baby boy. Brenda named the child Willie Jr., a controversial choice given the circumstances. Many in the community were stunned, but Brenda insisted the name honored her wishes. She raised Willie Jr. as her own, determined to give him a stable and loving home. Travis, who had been cleared of any involvement in Marlene's murder, faced his own struggles. The loss of his wife and child left him emotionally shattered. Friends described him as a shadow of his former self, and he eventually moved out of La Mesa to start anew. Travis remained largely out of the public eye, but court records show he made attempts to reconnect with his son through visitation, though these efforts were reportedly met with resistance from Brenda. In a shocking twist, Brenda married Willie in a prison ceremony later that year. The decision sparked outrage and disbelief among locals. Some saw it as a betrayal of Marlene's memory, while others speculated that Brenda's grief and complicated emotions might have led her to such an extreme choice. Willie and Brenda maintained their relationship through letters, phone calls, and occasional supervised visits. The story of Marlene Hayes, her tragic death, and the scandal surrounding Sheriff Carlin became a cautionary tale for the town of La Mesa. While life moved on, the events left an indelible mark on the community, serving as a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. This has been True Crime Case Files. Thank you for listening. Stay vigilant and remember, the truth always finds a way.